You can come on through. No, don't be. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Please get him out of here.
I will. Thank you. For me, when my oldest kid entered kindergarten and there were these massive citywide budget cuts, that was a really pivotal moment for me of really getting politically involved. And first fighting on the city level, but very quickly learning that there was a statewide solution to the gross underfunding and unequal funding of New York State schools. Any foundational change that we've ever seen has come from an activist movement, has come from a groundswell of people. Whether you're talking about the civil rights movement, whether you're talking about the women's movement, whether you're talking about the LGBT movement.
But does it give you the experience that I think he's referring to run a $170 billion budget?
I mean, what we're seeing across this country is how much Democratic and progressive voters are ahead of the leadership. And so Andrew Cuomo may have the experience in Albany. I don't actually think he's a very good governor. I think he's a very good politician. I think he's very good at grabbing headlines. I think he's very good at fundraising, even creative, I would say, at fundraising. He's very good at consolidating his own political power and making a quick deal and moving on. But I don't actually think he's good at addressing endemic problems like the incredible inequality here in New York State, that we're the most unequal state. And it's not just because we have Wall Street and so many wealthy people. We have more than half the kids in our upstate cities living below the poverty line. Syracuse has the most concentrated Black and Latino poverty of any single city in the entire country. And Andrew Cuomo isn't doing anything about that. He's giving tax breaks to corporations and millionaires and billionaires and banks because they fill his campaign coffers, and he's handing out hundreds of millions of dollars in economic development money in a way that rewards his donors and that isn't actually impacting the communities that need it most. When I travel around the state, particularly Black business owners speak to me with such anger about that they know the money is being spent upstate, but minority and women business owners can't get anywhere near this money.
Is the subway also a part of what you see as the inequality?
Yes, I mean the subway is just a measure of both how out of touch he is and how
he seems to think it's getting better.
Do you think it's getting better? Does anyone you know who rides the subway think it's getting better? I mean, we've got 65% on time. That's the worst the subway has ever been.
But if it's going to be fixed, is it half the city's responsibility?
No, it is not half the city's responsibility. It is the state's responsibility. The state controls the MTA, and when you look at how much the city already pays in terms of taxes and in terms of fares, and also when you look at least at my proposals, because his proposals are a little in the shadows, hard to tell what his proposals are if he really has some, but my proposals are a millionaire's tax, and a comprehensive congestion pricing, and a polluter's tax. The polluter's tax aside, congestion pricing and a millionaire's tax would fall largely on city residents and people who work in the city. That's where a lot of our millionaires and billionaires live.
Do you personally dislike Governor Cuomo? Or you just don't think he's done a good job?
I don't think he's done a good job. I mean, any interaction personal that I've had with him recently or in the past has always been perfectly pleasant. But I think it's really hard when
he was pretty hard on you in the debate.
He was pretty hard on me in the debate. I was pretty hard on him, but before and after, he was perfectly pleasant. And I think I was perfectly pleasant to him. But the level of corruption in his administration is unconscionable, and it's not just because corruption is wrong, it's because it's completely co-opted what our New York government policies are. And one of the really galling things to me is that if you're going to be a Republican and stand for Republican values, that's one thing, in my view. His first allegiance is and always has been, and I think always will be, to his corporate donors and his Republican donors, of whom he has a plethora, whether you're talking about the Koch brothers, whether you're talking about Donald Trump, whether you're talking about the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, the head of Republicans for Cuomo, whether you're talking about Ken Langone. And I think his first allegiance is always to corporations and wealthy people who donate to his campaigns, and he doesn't want to raise taxes on them. Instead, what he's done is he's given them enormous tax rates. He's cut $25 billion from states' revenue, and he doesn't want to pay for things like fully funding education or rescuing our New York City subway because he doesn't want to raise taxes on the wealthiest people, and that's the way to do it.
The polls, you just believe that they're wrong.
I do.
We're going to get a big surprise a week from today.
I think we're going to get a big surprise if everybody turns out on Thursday. We know who our voters are. We're getting an incredible number of yeses on our door knocks and on our phone calls and our voter-to-voter texting. We have to make sure that everybody knows the primary is a week from today, is Thursday, September 13th, and to reaffirm, that's a Thursday, right? Not a Tuesday.
A Thursday.
But I think whether you're talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's upset, whether you're talking about Andrew Gillum, whether you're talking about Ayanna Pressley just a couple of days ago in Massachusetts, we're not capturing who this new progressive voter is and how many in New York State alone, almost 600,000 people have registered to vote as new Democrats just in the last 2 years. And they're not people who are sitting home, by a landline, waiting to be polled. And they're not people who are, by and large, getting their information off of traditional sources.
Has it been worth it?
It has absolutely been worth it. It's been an incredible journey, and I think every day, dozens of times a day, people pass me and they say, I'm voting for you. They say, thank you for running. They say, thank you for talking about New York, what New York should be. And I really believe that there is going to be a big upset next Thursday. But whatever happens, I think we've really shown a light. We've shown a light not just on the corruption, but of all the Democratic priorities we haven't gotten to. And I think that, I'm part of a movement across the country. We have such great insurgent progressive candidates running this year, and I'm part of it, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Well, one last thing. If you're not successful, on Thursday, not Tuesday, but on Thursday, a week from today, do you feel at least you have moved Andrew Cuomo to the left?
I absolutely feel like I've moved him to the left on a whole host of environmental issues, whether you're talking about withdrawing the support for the incinerator in the Finger Lakes, or his long opposition to doing anything about plastic bags, about legalizing marijuana. He's had a complete sea change about putting parolees back in the voting rolls. There are a whole series of issues in which he has had to answer, and he has changed his position. But I think also drawing attention to the IDC and how we can't allow this to continue. In New York, we're a 2-to-1 Democratic state. We should be in control of the state Senate, and come November, we will.